What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the newest episode of the Believe in Oregon podcast, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm Zachary, Neel. He's Jonathan Stewart. JStew, what's up, man? How we doing?
Good, man. Peace over here on the East Coast. I'm just hanging out, dog. You know, the weather's pretty good.
I just learned out before the podcast through another source that you are going to be an honorary captain of the game, and you didn't tell me. What's up, man?
Hey, man, look, just
where's the heads up?
Heads up, 7-up. No, it's a cool opportunity though, man. I'm excited. I'm ecstatic to get down there. Obviously, I'm in Charlotte, so it's a 3.5 hour car drive. So me and my wife are gonna go down, spend the day in Georgia, stay the night, and then get back on the road Saturday because everyone's been laughing at me.
Ready for, huh?
Everyone's been laughing at me all year as I've been over here hyping up my Panthers. But I believed, and that's why I do my thing on Believe Network, because I'm a believer in my team, dog.
I also believe that I might have a number one seed to root for as well. So
yes,
if we want to talk NFL.
Yeah, you guys just hanging out this weekend, collecting dust. Hopefully I don't get rusty. That's how it's hard. You already know these bye weeks do to people. Got them boys in college.
I don't like it.
Got them boys in college feeling like, I don't know how to play football anymore.
Yeah, that's scary. Well, we'll see how that goes. Well, as far as the Ducks go, it is game week once again. On today's show, we're going to briefly give some takeaways from the Texas Tech game, since we have yet to talk since then. Then we're going to dive into this rematch against Indiana, talk some injury news, particularly about Jordon Davison, talk about some of the biggest points of emphasis and keys to victory, and then talk a little bit about the other semifinal game as well. Just get you overall ready for this weekend. It should be a fun weekend. Sound good to you?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get started. Starting with Texas Tech, what were some of your biggest takeaways from that game in general? 23-0 Oregon. What'd you feel after the game?
That was the best front seven that I've seen Oregon face all season. And it might be the best front seven I've seen in college football in quite some time, to be honest. The way Bailey is put together and to be that springy and explosive, I felt bad for Harkey, but I didn't feel bad for Harkey, obviously.
Yeah.
You got a job to do. But it just goes to show you, man, there's levels to this game in which we love. Like you have parts of the season to help you peak at the right point in the season. So, you have the off-season workouts, you have preseason and basically your preseason games where you're like playing Montana or whoever, right? And then you play the regular season games and you take it up a little bit, take it up a notch a little bit. And then you get to what we have now, like college football playoffs. This is where things get faster. You get better opponents. You get like first round draft picks. Like you get all of it, right? Top 10 draft picks. And your preparation has to be on par with that. And what I saw out of the offense facing this defense, it was almost like they looked at Texas Tech as a whole, like, oh, they played lesser talent than us. Offensively, that's how they approach it, it seemed like, right? Because the offensive line got whooped, man. They got whooped. Yeah, they put something on film that Indiana is gonna take it and run with it. I'm like, oh, see, they are who we thought they were.
Because Indiana did that to them earlier this year too.
Exactly. So now you got something to prove, and it creates this unnecessary pressure. You know what I'm saying? It would have been one thing if you would have gave up a sack here or a sack there, but nah, you was giving it up. Like you just went in there and said, "Hey, here it is, take it." Offensive, like and so the run game was not there because of it as well. Jordon Davison, broken collarbone and all, finished that game out. He's a straight up dog. First of all, I mean, like he's gonna get healthy and he's gonna continue to get better and all these types of things. And college coaches don't care what your numbers are your freshman year, your sophomore year. They just care about what your numbers are the year that you get drafted, the year you're coming out. But the one thing they are going to look back at, they're going to say, oh, he played through a broken collarbone, clavicle. And that speaks volumes. My man scored at the end of the game
Hurting.
with a season-ending injury. Okay.
Yeah.
And so if there was a bright spot on offense, it was Jordon Davison. Now that Jordon Davidson's gone and can't finish this season, his physicality, his football awareness, his football smarts, like the level of personnel that he knows as far as where guys line up. Because I mean, he plays fullback, he plays everything. It seems like he could probably, right? You lose a guy like that. So now who's going to step up? Because that physicality still has to show up in a game like this against Indiana, who's going to basically come in here and say, we're just going to be more physical than you and more disciplined than you. So if we do those two things, we win. Because the first time we played you, we did those two things and we won. And you just showed us that you still have problems with it. So we're going to exploit that. So I look at that game, Texas Tech. I wasn't pleased with offense, but I was very pleased with that defense. That defense came out and said, hey, JMU scored the last points on us that anyone's going to score on us this year. That was their mindset, right? Because, and obviously Texas Tech's offense, like they're like a glass of dirty water. I don't know.
Not as good. Yeah.
And you can see that, right? But still, these are kids, these are guys, young men being coached by guys that are getting paid, and the expectations to move the ball and drive the ball and to score. And they couldn't do any of it. They couldn't even sniff it. And that's what I love about that Oregon defense and how they played after that JMU game. And I loved how Dan Lanning made these guys finish the game. I loved how they went down there on offense and he executed that last drive like it was the drive to win the game. Like it was the last moments of the game. That's how that's how they executed it, especially because of how the game went for the offense. Let's end on a better note. Let's end on a good note. So that way this carries over into the week of practice and preparation for the next game.
Yeah, I think what I liked about this game against Texas Tech is it felt like an inverse of the JMU game. I mean, we left that one, like you said, kind of feeling down on the defense, feeling like they had a lot to prove. Now we've got, the defense playing one of the best, if not the best defensive game I've seen from an Oregon team in a decade. I don't know, like it's up there at least. But the offense, like you said, had a lot of questions, needed to show a lot more. So now it's kind of, in my mind, best of both worlds because you had a dominant win, a kind of stress-free win in a sense where it was not close at the end.
Yeah.
You've got the defense feeling really good, but the offense has something to prove now. They're once again being coached really hard and saying that, hey, you can't do that again and expect your season to continue. So looking ahead to Indiana, actually, before we get to Indiana, still on Indiana, but they beat Alabama 38-3 in their quarterfinal game. What did you see from that? Did that impress you, or do you kind of feel the same way about Alabama as we did Texas Tech?
Alabama would have lost to Texas Tech, in my opinion.
Okay, I think that's fair. Yeah. It would have been a close game, but I don't know that they win.
They would have lost, I think. They're just not. They're not. They are who we thought they were on offense. They weren't good on offense. And so you can be as good as you want on defense, but if you're not Nick Saban good on defense,
they weren't good either.
you have to show up. And I just think Alabama has been running on fumes since Nick Saban has left. And hopefully this is a learning. Like I was the one that said Alabama was a fraud. They shouldn't have been in this. Like you lost 3 games.
Yeah,
you're a loser. So, so you lose to Florida. They lost to Florida State in the beginning of the year. Like if you lose to Florida State in the beginning of the year, and Florida State turns out to be a terrible football team, what does that make you? It makes you a bad football team. And that's what we
Yeah.
saw in playoffs.
All right, looking at Indiana, we both wanted this rematch. I think that every Oregon fan has kind of been looking forward to this rematch, hoping it would come all season long. How do you feel? How would you rate your confidence on a scale of 1 to 10?
Defensively, I think we have a defense that meets the requirements to stop Mendoza in that running game. I like their running back. He's a physical runner, but the way our defense played last week against Texas Tech, they looked like a different version of themselves. They looked like the defensive line, our edges, Tuioti. Like Tuioti had a freaking phenomenal game, and he's been doing that week in and week out almost. And so, if they have that same level of intensity on defense, and if our offense is capable of showing up and executing and not making the mental errors, the mistakes that they made in previous games, like the Indiana game and this Texas Tech game, I think you then get yourself back into the mode in which you become a dominant football team again. And that's all they really need.
Yeah, I hear that. That's very solid. What do you think? So out of 1 to 10, where's your confidence that Oregon can at least be close in this game and, hopefully win the game as well?
My confidence level is an 8.
Okay.
Because my hope is my confidence comes with a little bit of hope, right? Because obviously we can't control anything being fans, but my hope and the reason why this game is so special because you get to hope, you get to dream and have these aspirations. So my hope is that Dante Moore outplays Mendoza, because if he does, we win this football game. If he outplays him, that means he's taking care of the ball. It means he's getting the ball out early. It means he's having the spatial awareness of who is on the field, pre-snap reads, alignments, and he's able to escape when he needs to escape to be able to create opportunities to get the plays downfield. And so I would love to see early, quick ball, get the ball out quick, hit the seams, utilize your tight ends. And because you're going to have to figure out ways to supplement, the physical style of play. And getting it to your tight ends is going to help that, right? You got to wear those linebackers out without it being so heavy and dependent on Noah Whittington, De'Aaron Hill. They're capable, but they're not Jordon Davison. Jordon Davison's been a huge part of their success when it comes to bringing that physicality into that run game. And so I would say an 8.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm probably at a 7, but I definitely have confidence that they can win this game. I think that's very possible. Again, it, like you said, comes down to Dante. He's got to have an A game. Like, he cannot play like he did last time and expect to win.
Nope. And the offensive line can't play like they played either.
Exactly.
Right?
I consider them the same thing, like them together, like diagnosing those pressures, those sim pressures, the blitzes. That's all a cohesive unit between Dante and the line. They just have to be better. You can't give up 6 sacks and expect to win this game. I felt more confident yesterday before the Jordon Davison news came out. That's just tough. It appears that Jay Harris might be able to play. He's announced his intention to transfer. He's not technically in the portal yet. He was at practice earlier this week, so it's kind of like, all right, if he's there,
maybe this is our guy. We talked about him last year, right?
Never wrong, just early. This could be his game.
This could be his game. But this is where stories become like very, very like magical, right? You have a story. If he comes out here and he balls out, right, the trajectory for him changes because you didn't just ball out against Montana State. You didn't
Yeah.
just ball out against or
Wisconsin,
like
Minnesota.
Wisconsin, you
Yeah.
know. No, you balled out on the national television, like
Mhm.
national presence when it mattered the most.
Yeah.
In front of
Well,
all
the
these
team
people,
needed you. Yeah.
the team needed you.
Mhm.
Pressure,
Yeah.
right? And so, what you gonna do with that pressure? You gonna apply it? We'll
Yeah.
see.
I've seen some fans ask that since you were the honorary captain, wondering if you might be able to suit up and and give them 10 carries. How do you feel?
I can do, if we get on that goal line, I can do it. But
You
if
could
we
do
out
that.
here in the middle of the field, I got to do pass pro. I got to get out there and catch a ball and shake somebody. That ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. What gives you the biggest level of concern when looking at Indiana? Like, if Oregon were to struggle in this game, it's because what happened?
It would be because we couldn't protect Dante
Mhm.
Moore. Simply
I think
put,
so too.
um, I think if we don't protect him, we can't expect him to be Superman, right? Because even his body style, right? He's not, you know, crazy big or like in
Yeah.
stature. So like he's not like Mendoza.
Mhm.
Built like a giraffe a little bit. So like
Mhm.
he'll willingly put his body out there against a linebacker because his body can kind of take it a little bit better, right?
Mhm.
Um, so you don't want to necessarily put Dante Moore into those types of situations if he doesn't have to. I mean, I expect him. I expect him to use his legs at least 4 times
Mhm.
to you know create an X factor isk type opportunity in this game. Um, because that's what God bless you with. God bless you with the ability to run. So when
Mhm.
you can do it, but I think the offensive line has to be sound. They
Mhm.
cannot jump out. They can't be late starting, false starting. They can't be holding. They can't be doing something that's unnecessary as far as like being out of position, right? So just play fundamentally sound football because Indiana is going to do that. And so
Yeah.
they saw you on tape again. They saw you do things that you weren't supposed to do.
Mhm.
And they say to themselves, okay, they're going to beat themselves. So we might as well put it to them so that
Yeah.
we really beat them. So you don't want to, give them an inch because if they give them an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yep. Well, to me, it's about early down success too, and that's something that we saw against Texas Tech. They really
Yeah.
struggled with. I mean, so many times they were in 2nd and 8, 3rd and 14, 3rd and 10. Like you can't do that against Indiana.
Yeah.
You got to stay in front of the chains, get into 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, to where that playbook is wide open for you. You can still run the ball. You can go
Yeah.
RPOs. You can pass the ball. So on both sides of the ball, you can't let Indiana get into those 3rd and 3s, and you can't live in 3rd and 8 or longer, because that's
Yeah.
really, I mean, that just ramps the pressure up. Um, the
I
point
will say
spread. Go ahead.
their front seven doesn't scare me like Texas Tech's front
Not as
seven
much.
does
No,
though.
they're still good, but they are
I
losing
mean,
two of their best
Boykin,
players.
I think their secondary is what's very special.
Hmm.
And I think that's what I don't think Dante Moore was prepared for how the secondary was when they played him the first time.
Just the
Because I mean,
combo of both altogether.
you got 5 guys, including Boykin, in the nickel. Like these are guys,
Hmm. Yeah, these are
and
NFL players.
they're these are all going to be they're all going to be playing in the NFL.
Yeah,
So if you can run the ball,
yeah,
I
it's
think
gonna
you
be
give
huge.
yourself a chance.
The point spread brought to you by our presenting sponsor, FanDuel Sportsbook. It has moved a little bit. Oregon is now a 3.5 point underdog. They were 4.5 points yesterday. Over under listed at 46.5 points. What's your feeling? What's your bet? What's your final score prediction?
27-23.
Okay. I'm assuming Oregon. I can't imagine you'd be
Uh,
picking against them.
Boy, duh.
Do I have to
Hey,
ask?
although I like that coach, man, Signetti, everything about him. Like usually you be trying to hate on teams if you, especially if your team is playing another team. I can't hate on Indiana. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
I can like I was hating on Ohio State last year. I can tell you that. but I can't hate on this team. They do things the right way,
Got a lot of respect
and
for
they
him.
just win.
Yeah.
And just this journey and how he's handled his business, like the guys that he brought along with him with his coaching staff
It's
and
impressive, man.
his post-game interviews and all the things that he does is like gold. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I completely agree. Yeah, I've got Oregon 23, Indiana 21. So we're kind of in the same realm there. I think it's a close game late. I think Atticus Sappington hits a field goal to win it, down
come on,
21-28 in the
Atticus.
fourth. So
Didn't Atticus miss
no
a field
pressure.
goal this last game?
He did, but he also hit one, a 50-yarder to start the game. So
Yeah, don't be missing no field goals, boy.
no, I can't allow that.
Hey, look, it's like, hey, look, you go to a circus and they be throwing knives at people and they don't be missing. I need you to have that type of focus.
That precision.
Okay?
Yep.
Yeah, that same precision, baby.
The latest championship odds, again, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Oregon is plus 300. Indiana leads at plus 130. Miami, at plus 340. And Ole Miss at plus 540. Been saying it. Take the Ducks. They will for sure be favored if they move on from this game. So if you want to bet them for the championship, now's the time. I looked at some hypothetical lines again from FanDuel. If Oregon were to win this game, they would be favored by 2.5 points against Miami, even with that game being in Miami, the Hurricanes' home stadium. And if Ole Miss were to win, Oregon would be favored by 3.5 points. Which would you rather have happen? Which team would you rather play should Oregon win?
The easier team is Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Like, I think we match up better against them. But I think the better team of the two, Ole Miss and Miami, I think Miami comes out of that game.
I think so too.
As a winner. I think their defense is put together, and their running game is strong. Now their offensive coordinator, he can mess it all up. Who knows?
Their coach and the quarterback, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong.
They can mess it up, and so that they have. So the Miami Hurricanes, not only do they have to beat Ole Miss, they have to beat coaching.
Their own coaching staff. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
I agree. I think Oregon will win that game, but I also thought that Georgia would beat Ole Miss, and Ole Miss keeps, finding a way to win these games. So I would not be at all surprised if Ole Miss wins that game. They just kind of seem like one of those teams right now.
Especially how their offense is pretty hot right now with that quarterback.
But the defense isn't great. That's where I like that matchup more for Oregon if it were to happen. Because, if you're playing a Miami front seven with Ruben Bain or an Ole Miss front seven that doesn't really have anyone that scares you, I'll take Ole Miss every time, even though they have the offense.
It would be good, though, for Miami to win because they've been getting a lot of hell for the last several years, like 25. But think about it, though. Like, it's that part of the states where it's Florida, right? Florida football ain't been good.
No,
and you got all these athletes out there, and you got all the legendary greats from different sports that have come from that state. It would mean a lot to that state. It would mean a lot to the culture of it would mean a lot to the culture of sports, to be honest.
Okay.
You talk Michael Irvin, you talking about like Ray Lewis, you talking guys like
Ed Reed, everyone.
Ed Reed. So I mean, it would just in my mind, I would like to see that happen because it would just be good for sports in general.
And the potential storylines, again, if Oregon were to win, of an Oregon, Dan Lanning versus Mario Cristobal championship would be, oh my God. I can't imagine the page views that would be coming from that on Ducks Wire would be wonderful. So I would appreciate that. All right, let's wrap it up there. I've got a flight to catch. You will be down in Georgia. You're going on Friday, right?
Yeah, Friday. So I'll hit you up when I get there.
Yeah,
see where you at.
Yeah, we'll find a time to meet up. We'll be back on the next few days after the game to recap what goes down. Hopefully it's a fun episode to record. You got anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, man. Just be physical, be disciplined, and lay it all out on the line.
Completely agree. All right, you can check out more of my work at duckswire.usatoday.com. Follow me at Zachary C. Neel on Twitter. Follow JStew on Twitter at Jonathan Stewart1. For myself, Zach Neel, for my co-host Jonathan Stewart, we'll talk to you guys next week. Until then, take it easy.